Hello again, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this Tuesday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first, we've got a hydrograph, actually shows the river level of the Eagle River at the Connect River Bridge, or at the bridge there. And over the weekend, when it was, temperatures were higher, it reached about 6.1 feet. And that flooded the trail, the Crow Pass Trail, and actually made it pretty difficult to cross. And that may happen again this weekend. It's come down because of the cooler temperatures, a little cooling aloft there, and but they're forecast to go back up again this weekend, and that'll create the snowmelt to accelerate again, what's left of it. And it could get back up, actually maybe even a shade higher than it did this last weekend. So that trail is going to be, again, covered with water and quite difficult. I believe it was like waist deep last weekend. And here Thursday, Friday could happen again in that time period. Actually, tomorrow into the 4th, it'll be high again. So from there, moving on to the hazardous weather graphic, dense fog advisory continues out for the inland areas of the Kenai Peninsula due to the Swan Lake fire for tonight and tomorrow and into, I believe, tomorrow night. Otherwise, not much change in the pattern here. And except out west, we have a high surf advisory there for the south coast of the Seward Peninsula through tonight into tomorrow for the south winds gusting 40 miles an hour along the Yukon Delta coast today, and even stronger through the Bering Strait. Tin City gusts 55 miles an hour. And rain, moderate to briefly heavy at times, occurring with that frontal system out there, pretty active system here. And so this high surf advisory is out through tonight into tomorrow sometime till probably the winds will die off, at least by afternoon tomorrow, if not by early morning, as the front pushes inland, the whole system weakens. On to fire danger. Been a reduction up here with all the moisture streaming eastward, coming in over the high pressure south of Kodiak Island from the Bering. So lost the extreme there over the upper Yukon Valley area, but still areas of high fire danger. And then it kind of scatters out here over toward the Koyukuk Valley southward there, and then still high, but not as high as it was yesterday, north side of the Seward Peninsula there. And actually Shishmaref picked up about 1/3 of an inch of precipitation during the day today. So this area, I probably could have just dropped it altogether. Otherwise, moving on to satellite imagery. Here's the cloud shield associated with the frontal boundary and a couple of low pressure areas, one tracking northward across the Russian Far East and a weaker one farther down along the frontal boundary right in this area roughly. But that feeding moisture south to north here, and again, pretty good rainfall amounts with that. As I mentioned, the 0.6 of an inch having fallen at Nome today, with Tin City picking up 1/2 inch, as well as Point Hope also had 1/2 inch of precipitation. Those are amounts in the 12-hour period ending at 3 p.m. this afternoon. Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta area and inland just mostly less than 1/10 of an inch on the rain. So the heaviest rain's been out here to the west and extending down with wind gusts 60 miles an hour there at Cold Bay, and Pribilof seeing gusts to about 35 to 40 miles an hour, and then again Tin City 55 mile an hour wind gusts there. So that's going to slowly edge eastward here and weaken as it pushes inland, so the rain will begin to diminish later tonight into tomorrow. Winds definitely coming down in those windier areas, and even the southern portion is going to weaken as well, but not come eastward like the northern part will. Clear skies mostly there over Bristol Bay into Kodiak Island, and varying amounts of mid and high level clouds, a little more than I thought yesterday, coming eastward here in the upper level flow from west to east across southern Alaska. And no thunderstorms as of yet, just a few isolated showers occurring here over the eastern Alaska range. Chisana picked up about 0.4 of an inch today, and that was about it. Otherwise dry here in the eastern part of the state, south central Alaska. Low clouds and fog still in along the coastline and in along the eastern North Gulf Coast, and quite an area along and off the coast of the Panhandle again. Of course, that burns off early. And temperatures this afternoon were generally in the upper 60s, lower 70s, a little cooler along the coast there. And cooler in Copper River Basin today, still a couple areas reaching near 80. as well as the Susitna Valley, Kenai Peninsula. Seward hit 81 degrees today with north winds there. And for the rolling this again, you can see it breaking out up here over the eastern Brooks Range, Arctic Village onto the eastern Arctic coast there with some clearing there with that southwest flow, offshore flow as this system approaches. And looking at the chart for today, here's that weak wave to southwest of the Pribilofs there, the stronger low center passing up over the Russian Far East, and the wind and rain here with this frontal boundary. Again, not making it too far inland and mostly heading from south to north, but this whole system will begin to take a jog to the east tonight. High pressure trying to hold it off, and it'll do a better job keeping it out of southern Alaska. Isolated showers, as I mentioned, over the eastern Alaska range, and this thermal trough here just off the coast, that's keeping the smoke mostly heading south instead of it going back to the northwest. Higher pressure building into the western Aleutians for light winds, low clouds and fog there. And for tonight, very weak upper trough may kick off a few showers, scattered isolated showers here over the southern southeast coast, maybe back up toward the central areas there. Most of the action will be over in British Columbia. High pressure shifts eastward a little bit there and toward the central Tanana Valley. And that allows this front to edge eastward ever so slowly. But you can see less gradient here. Winds will be coming down even tonight for the northwest coast and those windy areas, and staying pretty breezy out in advance of the front there from the Seward Peninsula, Norton Sound area. Yukon Delta mainly, lighter winds and precipitation getting a little more showery there for the Kuskokwim Delta. None expected in Bristol Bay. Areas of smoke, otherwise mostly clear over southern Alaska, and generally trying to clear here over the Tanana Valley north of the Alaska Range. And this front trails back, but precipitation pretty light now, and wind's not really a factor for the central and even the eastern Aleutians. And high pressure continues to build over the southwest Bering Sea and western Aleutians. For tomorrow, this front really weakens, especially both precipitation and wind-wise here, just showers, cloudy skies, areas of light rain or showers that are diminishing throughout the day here along this thing. A little bit better chance of rain maybe along the Arctic coast, but downsloping flow clearing out or drying out there for much of the north slope. And then mostly sunny eastern interior, mostly sunny southern Alaska. Temperatures starting to edge back upwards again. Probably be a few degrees warmer than today, and stays wet and unsettled over the Pribilofs, actually from Nunivak Island, across St. Paul, St. George, down toward mainly Atka Island. We'll probably pick up more precipitation than we'll Adak, and then fair and foggy areas of fog on out to the west. Southeast coast, still some lingering shower chances there, mostly from probably just east, near the border of the central areas there on down towards Stewart and Hyder, otherwise becoming mostly sunny, and an upward swing in temperatures there expected as well. And for 4th of July, look for sunny skies, temperatures in the 70s and 80s for the southeast coast here. Sunny and hotter here across southern Alaska with temperatures from northeast Bristol Bay eastward rising into the 80s again. Don't think there will be any 90s yet. There could be, but definitely hotter and drier conditions. This thermal trough still southern Kenai Peninsula coast right over Kodiak Island, so that should keep kind of the smoke from making a big push to the north or any other direction. Actually, it's kind of let it accumulate, not much of a gradient here at all. So winds will be light. Remnants of this front keeps scattered showers and mostly cloudy skies there from the northern upper Yukon Valley back across the Koyukuk and Kobuk valleys, and break there over the Arctic coast with a trough as of at least through Thursday afternoon staying north of even the central coast. And the remnants of that frontal boundary, kind of just a warm front feature now drifting back to the west a little bit, so that puts the rain back over Adak and maybe some drizzle for Nikolsky. And for the lows tonight, 50s, mid to upper here for the east central interior, mid to upper 40s for the Bering Sea and the west coast, as well as the Aleutians and the western Arctic coast, 50s in the Panhandle. Tomorrow, highs well into the 70s. There across the southeast coast, highs mid-80s, Copper River Basin, mid-80s, Susitna Valley, and probably the Kenai Peninsula as well, the inland areas, and 60s to mid-70s, Bristol Bay, mid to upper 70s over the eastern interior, cooler back to the west. Overnight lows the following morning, 55 to 60 here from south central Alaska, all the way up to the upper Yukon Valley, mid-50s to the Panhandle, lower 50s here to the west, and 40s in the Bering Sea, followed by highs 82 King Salmon and pushing 90 actually for the Copper River Basin and Susitna Valley, 75 to 80 for the central and eastern interior, and of course 50s to mid-60s along the Arctic coast and lower 80s in portions of the Panhandle.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to flying weather. IFR here covering all the Bering Sea, the Aleutians, into the Alaska Peninsula. VFR, Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island, Cook Inlet, IFR here over the Kenai Peninsula due to smoke, and some VFR, Southern Alaska, marginal VFR, Central Interior, IFR, southern slopes of the Brooks Range there, central and western area, as well as the northern Koyukuk Valley on out to the Noatak Valley. IFR kind of skirting the Arctic coast, southeast coast, IFR right along the coastline here, and pretty well socked in over the southern panhandle, VFR to the north. Afternoon, that goes marginal down south there and stays VFR in the central and south, or IFR right along the central south coast. And no change here, south central Alaska with the smoke. Long marginal VFR streaming in with the westerly flow aloft, west-southwest here into the central interior, downsloping VFR in the north slope, and then IFR, Bering Sea and the Aleutians. Outlook for Thursday morning. A lot of marginal VFR in the central interior remaining with some spotty areas of IFR, especially along and south of the central Brooks Range. VFR north slope, back to IFR right along the Arctic coast. IFR, Bering Sea, Aleutians, into the Alaska Peninsula, and then VFR for portions of Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island in the VFR zone, as well as the Copper River Basin, Mananuska-Susitna Valley, southern Kuskokwim Valley. And then for Thursday afternoon, still with this zone of marginal VFR through the central interior, pretty widespread area of that. North slope, though, from the Brooks Range on out to the Arctic coast, good VFR. Southern Alaska, good VFR, except for marginal to IFR conditions due to the fire on the Kenai Peninsula. Bristol Bay VFR, Kodiak, same thing. No change out west. Panhandle, a little bit better now, along with some warmer temperatures. Marginal VFR just lingering along the central coast there, otherwise good VFR with a lot of sunshine. And for Eniktuvik, marginal VFR, chance of IFR, southern entrance. Same forecast for Adigan as well, marginal through the pass, and possibly some IFR, southern entrance. Lake Clark and Merrill, both passes, marginal VFR tomorrow, rainy VFR, and windy VFR as well with Isabel VFR, Ventasta VFR, and Tanita, same forecast VFR conditions, both for Tanita and Portage, and for Chilkoot and White VFR. Freezing levels, upper level high here, just south of Kodiak Island, and with that, the highest freezing level, 14,000 feet up into southern Cook Inlet, 12,000 foot freezing levels covering the southern third of the state, 10 to 12,000, falling back to just 8,000 feet in the Arctic coast, so pretty high across the entire state, and 8,000 feet back over the northwest Bering Sea. And for icing, this area a little more prominent in the morning hours. That'd be the best chance of icing through this entire zone. It starts breaking up in the afternoon. Still could see maybe some possibly considerable moderate, but that's way up there above 10,000 feet, even higher here from the Perlofts on down to the central Aleutians. Jet stream, westerly flow, strong westerly flow across the Pacific here. Splits right here south of the Fox Islands, one branch north up over the upper level high here, the other branch off to the southeast around the upper level low to the south of the high. And this trough here kind of swinging northeastward, and that puts a squeeze on the atmosphere there. So we got 110 knot jet blowing across northwest Alaska, coming back around through the Yukon 80 to 100 knots offshore flow for the Panhandle. And at 9,000 feet, southwesterly, southerlies, 30 knots here, 32 as high as 50 knots for the Fox Islands, and then 35 to 40 into the southwest interior, 20 to 30 up to the north and northeast. 40 knot winds, western Arctic coast of that trough, lighter winds over the Aleutians. Panhandle, not too bad, light offshore flow, but only 5 to 10 knots, maybe 15 for the North Gulf Coast. And taking a look at 3,000 feet, we've got northeasterlies, generally real light, 5 to 10 knot winds there, Copper River Basin, on down across the Panhandle, and the strongest winds here, southwest 25 to 30 knots over the western Brooks Range area, back to the western Arctic coast, and about 30 knot winds here, 20 to 30 coming across the Fox Islands, and then 20 to 25 right on up to the northeast. Light winds at about 10 to possibly as high as 20 knots for the western Aleutians. Turbulence Okay, light ice and moderate chop, Fox Islands to Atka Island and across the western interior to north of the Brooks Range. Thank you. And when I get back, we'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm Dave Snider, and joining me again is Cindy Preller. She's the Tsunami Program Manager for Alaska Region's National Weather Service. Thanks again for joining us, Cindy.
Thanks for having me back, Dave.
Sure thing. And I love saying Tsunami Program Manager for Alaska's National Weather Service because that's not weather. Why is the Tsunami Program part of the National Weather Service?
Well, it's because the Weather Service absolutely rocks at warning people for every kind of, devastating natural hazard.
The mission of the Weather Service is to protect life and property. And so how does the Tsunami Warning Center in Palmer, Alaska, which is a very unique office, again, within the Weather Service, it's not weather, how do those folks help us protect life and property?
The National Tsunami Warning Center in Palmer is a national warning center, and we analyze seismic traces 24/7 all around the world. So when there's an earthquake anywhere on the planet, we see it and analyze it within minutes.
Within minutes, and
Within
there's
minutes.
actually a goal to have it under, was it 5 minutes?
If there is a tsunami warning to be issued for continental America, we must get that out, or shoot to get that out in 5 minutes.
Okay. Now that's not something I have ever learned to do, so I know it would be a struggle for me to do that under probably hours. But it is fascinating to watch, and the office is open on a regular basis for tours, right?
Absolutely. Come by Friday.
Okay.
Yep, every Friday at 1, 2, and 3 p.m. and they're open public free tours. And it's the most interesting place on the planet. You really should check it out.
Okay, and the office team is made up of people that are earth scientists, not meteorologists or atmospheric scientists. Talk about some of the types of people that work there.
Right, we are out of place in our National Weather Service, but we are geologists, geophysicists, oceanographers. We even have an astrophysicist on board, computer software architects, electronic technicians that are brilliant and innovative. Our software is all written in-house. Our instrumentation is designed in-house. So it's a really, really unique place, and it's just a couple handfuls of people that work there. So
sure.
Yeah.
One of my favorite ways to get a tsunami alert message is on Twitter.
Right.
And I can follow the Twitter address, and we'll put that up on the screen for you there. But it's usually a very quick message that tells you initially what the magnitude of an earthquake could be and about where its epicenter was. What are some of the other ways that you can get that alert message?
Well, Twitter's my favorite too.
Yeah.
And you don't even need a Twitter account to receive it. So
That's
it just comes in like an SMS message. But you can also receive it via email, weather radio, of course, the crawler on your television screen, on the internet, Google Alerts, marine radio if you're out in harbors and boats. Actually, marine radio is probably...
Yeah, it is a good one.
That's our partnership with the Coast Guard. We're really grateful for that, absolutely. But there's a variety of ways in dissemination.
Okay.
And locally, excuse me, I'm sorry, but locally in the communities, the sirens will go off as well.
Right. So lots of different ways to get that very important message very quickly when that matters to you. One of the ways that the Warning Center practices with communities is a test on a yearly basis, right?
Right.
How does that work?
Thanks for bringing that up. It's a controversial issue, but it's super important to help us warn better and really serve Alaskans. So the week of March 27th, the commemoration of the 1964 event, for that week we have a Tsunami Preparedness Week every year. We like communities to get out and do drills and practice and do everything we can to raise awareness. And part of that is a live code test where we actually issue the warning message live and we activate the emergency alert system, which means sirens go off, the TV crawler happens, and it's a test.
We're doing everything that would normally happen without the real threat of the tsunami, just to practice as much as possible.
Right, and this is a major partnership with the State of Alaska, Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, the Emergency Operations Center, and the Alaska Broadcasters Association. Without the media, we wouldn't be able to do this. So the three groups really work tightly together to do our best to warn, educate the public that this is happening so they don't wonder and get scared about it. It has been remarkable what we've learned. I mean, it pretty much breaks somewhere every time,
Sure.
but then we fix it and it gets better. So a quick example is just a few years ago, we used to, when we issued a message, it would activate the entire state.
Right.
Right? I mean, Kotzebue, Nome, Bethel, everybody would be in tsunami warning. And so now we can regionalize it to where the actual event is taking place.
Right.
That's pretty huge.
Right, right. So identifying points of failure and also points of success and making sure we continue down that successful path so that folks are warned as quickly and accurately as possible.
Absolutely. And, you know, to get our communities involved to prep themselves, prep their businesses, prep their tourism, prep their schools, you know, just make this an annual thing they need to be doing.
Right. So as citizens wanting to be prepared, we should be prepared to learn more about that test that's happening usually toward the end of March every year.
Right, and you should be happy that it's happening.
Right.
Instead of upset. Definitely be happy that it's happening.
Right. Just as we test tornado sirens in tornado country, we also have to test the tsunami program as well.
Right, because there isn't enough time. You know, for a local tsunami, the wave will arrive in less than 2 minutes. So it's super important that people know what to do.
Very good. Well, Cindy, thank you so much for helping us know more about the Tsunami Ready program and the test. And the Tsunami Warning Center is a very unique and very important job in the National Weather Service that is just fascinating to me every time I visit the office. So
It's the only one for the continent. You really should come check it out.
it's an international effort.
Yes.
Wonderful stuff. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you, Dave.
And thanks for joining us for another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm Dave Snider. We'll see you next time.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis. Not much different from what we saw yesterday. Really no big changes going on anywhere along the ice field here. And over the next few days, the ice edge out here over the Chukchi Sea will probably shift north or northeast there with the winds, but nothing too drastic. Moving on to coastal water forecasts. Looks like northwest winds, light northwest winds, winds mostly northwest at 10 knots here for all of the southeast coast on the outer coastline, except the south coast, west at 10. Seas running 5 to 6 feet, and light southerly winds for the inside waters, all at 10 knots, seas all at 2 feet. And for Thursday, North Lynn Canal, north winds at 10, and light northwest winds for Stevens Passage and Clarence Strait with seas still pretty low at 2 feet or less. Northwest 10 to 15 on the south coast here with seas at 6 feet. North coast, not much different, northwest at 10 and seas 5 feet. Prince William Sound, look for west winds tomorrow at 15 knots with 3-foot seas. Southwest at 10 for the eastern North Gulf Coast. Back here to the west, looking at northwesterlies at 20 with 6-foot seas. Barren Island, stronger though. Small craft advisories, west 30 knots, 8-foot seas. And Kamishak Bay, gale warnings, west winds 35 knots sustained, 10-foot seas there. And then south of the Forelands here in Cook Inlet, look for southwest winds at 20 and southwest 10 for northern Cook Inlet. Outlook for Thursday, wind swing around to the north here, north at 10 for northern Cook Inlet and 20 knots south of the Forelands. Small craft advisories for Kamishak Bay, northwest 25, north winds 20 for the Barren Islands, and kind of a light variable wind pattern for the North Gulf Coast and Prince William Sound, all at 10 knots with seas pretty slight, 4 feet here in the North Gulf Coast, 2 feet for Prince William Sound. And for Kodiak Island, look for west winds 25 knots tomorrow for small craft advisories there on the east side. Shelikof Strait southwest at 20. Sitkinak to Castle Cape, west winds 20 knots. And southwest 15 from Castle Cape to Cape Sarachev. Bering Sea side of the peninsula, we've got south winds at 30 knots with 8-foot seas, and then back down to 15 for Bristol Bay out of the southwest. Northwest 15 for Bristol Bay on Thursday, and light southwest winds by comparison here at 10 to 15 knots for the Alaska Peninsula, turning more northwest as you approach Sitkinak. Kodiak Island, northerlies 15 with seas 3 to 5 feet. Western Aleutians, far western zone there, 15 knot winds out of the north, pick up to about 20 knots here from, say, Amchitka in toward Adak, and then the central Aleutian forecast east to northeast, 20 to 25, strongest on the Pacific side of the islands with seas approaching 10 feet. And small craft advisories for the Fox Islands, south to southeast, 25 to 30 knots, and seas 9 to 12 feet. Outlook for Thursday, on Alaska Island, east southeast, 20 knots, and for Unmak Island, Southeast at 30 knots with 10 to 12 foot seas. East 30 knots for Adak and Atka there with 10 to 14 foot seas. Small craft advisories, 25 knot winds. Northeast turn northerly there from Kiska to Shemya. And for the southwest coast, south winds 20 to 25 knots and 25 knot winds here for the Pribilofs. Much lighter there, St. Matthew Island at 10. Southwest 20, St. Lawrence Island. And the outlook for Thursday, St. Lawrence Island southerlies at about 15. We've got south winds 15 to 20 here along the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta coast across Nunivak Island. Southeast 20 for the Pribilofs. Same thing for St. Matthew Island, and 6 to 8 foot seas there. For the area from Wales on up to Cape Thompson, southwest 15, Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort, southwest 20. South 20 knot winds on the west side of the coast. Small craft advisories, central coast, southeast 25 knots, and 20 to 25 knot winds out of the southeast extend all the way to Demarcation Point. And the outlook for Thursday, west at 10, pretty light again on the extreme eastern coast. South 20 there on the midway over to the central coast, and then back into the small craft advisories. Central coast, southwest 25, even a little stronger on the west side at 30 knots, all the way down to Cape Thompson, 30 knot winds. And small craft advisories to the Berings or to Wales there for southerlies at 25. For tonight again, front edges eastward, so the heavier wind and rain will drop off considerably behind that front, and the whole thing's starting to weaken as it pushes in the area high pressure. Areas of smoke advisory out again tonight into tomorrow for the Kenai Peninsula inland areas. High surf advisory for the south coast of the Seward Peninsula for high surf tonight into early tomorrow, and scattered showers over the southern panhandle with a very weak upper level trough and hotter temperatures on Thursday.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.